Are you afraid to fight? Stop it. He's no match for you.
Holy shit, did you see that? That's the sound of me as a little kid watching SBS late on a Friday night. Samurai and Kung Fu movies were the best getaway from primary school life a kid could want for the weekend. The next Monday at school, we'd all be talking about them. It was a huge inspiration for many boys loving action movies, play fighting, mimicking the out-of-sync dialogue, or reciting the powerfully cool quips the characters had to say against their adversaries. Today, we'll be talking about Japanese samurai cinema and its progression over the decades. But only the authentic Japanese ones. The real ones. The ones who set up everything. Here's what we won't be covering.
I'll prove I'm the best.
No.
Huh? You are real, aren't you?
No. And definitely not this guy.
They call him Samurai. He speaks fluent Japanese.
Are you Fujiyama?
What does katana mean?
It means Japanese sword.
Brilliant. For the purpose of this video, we'll only be looking at ones made in Japan with all Japanese cast and crew, since its beginnings, and focusing on just one or two per decade. Sure, we're going to miss a hell of a lot, but hey, we're just going to go that way. So let's get started with some historical context. Japanese theatre was the staple of public entertainment since 1603. It was called kabuki. This way of theatre, like any other country's heritage, relayed folk tales and others that can be observed by the 7 basic plots: overcoming the monster, rags to riches, the quest, voyage and return, rebirth, comedy, and tragedy. Commonly known as chambara, meaning sword fighting films, it was a subgenre of jidaigeki, or period drama, usually set in times of feudal Japan. First up, 1925's Orochi, aka The Serpent. Silent but awesome. It's got narration. Arguably one of the first samurai movies produced, Orochi is a tragedy set in the 1700s of feudal Japan around protagonist Heisaburo Kurutomi, a low-class samurai whose life is turned upside down by a series of false accusations and devious plots by the people he encounters. Originally named The Outlaw, Japanese censorship found the term to be glorifying criminality and considered the societal repercussions to possibly become dangerous in a very conservative country. Thus, the production renamed it to The Serpent, in relation to the movements and somewhat wily nature of protagonist Kuritomi. The honourable yet futile climax to the story, along with a callback to the very first scene's narration, is sombre and reminiscent of many other tragedies in storytelling history, one I do adore in filmmaking. However, there is a certain precision needed for this technique to work without being on the nose, something Orochi successfully achieves. Next up, Humanity and Paper Balloons, 1937. 12 years after Orochi, Humanity and Paper Balloons was Sadao Yamanaka's final film before his untimely death at just 28. There's a clear upgrade to the film stock used, with slight blooms in the lighting and cinematography. Although centering around a singular samurai protagonist, it also has subplots for the other civilian characters as they navigate through their simple lives during the 18th century in Edo, current-day Tokyo. Whilst there isn't any sword fighting scenes, the storytelling led a more character-based tale of the hardships of the era, again touching on the difficulties for Ronin, or masterless samurai. There's a clear tone in the film that inspired the coming decades of samurai movies to not only be hack and slash, but also explore the human condition. There's also a line that may have been some inspiration to another movie that would come some 25 years later in the form of Masaki Kobayashi's Harakiri. Not only is Humanity and Paper Balloons a noteworthy entry, some have even gone on to declare it one of the greatest films of all time. There is though a blink and you'll miss it set blooper of an electrical box mildly exploding from all the fake rain. 1941, The 47 Ronin. There have been 11 movies made so far of the infamous true story of the 47 Ronin, or Chushingura, whom after their lord is forced to commit suicide after a shameful incident, they bide their time and go on a quest to avenge his death. Whilst they achieve their goal, The act in itself meant that they would choose, all together, their respective demises. Ritual suicide. Directed by Kenji Mizoguchi, the film was adapted from a kabuki play by Seiki Mayama. Mizoguchi was originally employed to make wartime propaganda movies for the government, who wanted this to be a ferocious morale booster. However, he chose a softer angle as the play had it. It was a commercial bomb as it was released just 1 week before the Pearl Harbor attack. Audiences found it to be too serious. Whilst lacking in its original popularity, a Part 2 was put into production and released a year later to wider appreciation. Part 1 ran at 112 minutes, whilst Part 2 at 111, bringing the total runtime of the combined two to 220 minutes, or 3 3/4 hours. 1950, Rashomon. 15 years after renowned writer and director Akira Kurosawa began his film career as an assistant, he brought a new direction of storytelling to the screen. Descending from a samurai family himself, he would write and direct many samurai films, even though the new American censorship would sometimes ban his works due to the post-war nature of the time, claiming some were too feudal. His bold style was influenced by American cinema, but was uniquely distinct and his own. Rashomon was written in collaboration with Shinobu Hashimoto, it being his first ever produced screenplay. The success of the film would instill a deep ongoing relationship with Kurosawa in years to come. It's a crime thriller based around the recounting tellings of the 4 main characters of a rape and a murder, each told from a different point of view, which would at times vastly contradict with each other's. The style and concept was new, although based on Ryunosuke Akutagawa's short story Inner Grove. With its emphasis on subjectivity of truth's different perspectives, some have taken the meaning to compare to Japan's defeat from World War II, something Kurosawa would subtly allude to in other works. Rashomon would inspire countless Western cinema, such as Courage Under Fire, Vantage Point, and even an episode of TV sitcom Frasier. 1954, Seven Samurai! Another of Kurosawa's masterpieces, again teaming up with writer Shinobu Hashimoto and collaboration with famed actor Toshiro Mifune. Seven Samurai is, objectively, one of the greatest films in cinema history. When a veteran samurai is hired by a poor village to protect it from raiding bandits, the trope of putting a team together was born, where countless other movies have employed this theme in storytelling.
I'm putting together a special team.
Then we're gonna need a team.
What if I told you we were putting a team together?
Putting together a team.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.
Kurosawa's ongoing exploration of the hardships and hypocrisy of the samurai way is presented beautifully, and the effectively meaninglessness it held in an evolving society. Kyuzo's death, a poignant moment signifying the eventual death of the samurai way by technologies that would see the sword become redundant, one final act of defiance against the emerging ways. Elite swordsman Kyuzo throws his sword at the enemy and the system itself. It may be one of the most significant and lonely deaths of the film, before brave and brash Kikuchiyo meets his own. Kurosawa's other works would go on to also inspire many more films such as Star Wars with The Hidden Fortress and A Fistful of Dollars with Yojimbo and Sanjuro, though filmed The Throne of Blood of 1958 was inspired by Shakespeare's Macbeth. The 1960s. Following on from Yojimbo and Sanjuro, which are also ripped off and turned into westerns, as was Seven Samurai, came the Samurai Trilogy with folk hero Miyamoto Musashi, played by Toshiro Mifune. The 60s would also begin a series of movies based on the adventures of a fictional blind swordsman named Zatoichi, starring Shintaro Katsu. The character was created by novelist Kan Shimozawa. In fact, a total of 26 movies would be produced of Zatoichi between 1962 and 1989, where in 1990, a US remake was produced called Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer. Admittedly, it's a pretty fucking awesome movie.
I also do circumcision. Blind Fury.
Where Kurosawa would have just 2 notable samurai movies of the decade in '62 with Yojimbo and Sanjuro, Masaki Kobayashi would direct the critically acclaimed Harakiri. It's a tragedy that revolves around an older samurai who sets out to avenge his family against a hypocritical lord. The story is presented upon his arrival to the Lord through a series of flashback sequences, each sympathetically and heartbreakingly told through his eyes. The screenplay was again written by Shinobu Hashimoto, Kurosawa's guy, and the stunning and innovative cinematography stylings by Yoshio Miyajima. It's another masterclass in cinema, and in my opinion, one of the greatest movies ever made. In later years, it would also be remade in 2011 by director Takashi Miike as Harakiri, Death of a Samurai, or the kanji title Ichime. The 1970s. With the exploitation films of American cinema of the 70s, Japan would produce another series of movies around a single travelling samurai and his son, called Lone Wolf and Cub. 6 films were made with highly stylized graphic violence, themes of protecting others, and granting bloody vengeance on those who decided to cross the wrong dude. Whilst other colour movies had obviously been made before the 70s in samurai cinema, Lone Wolf and Cub would embrace it with its film stocks and used other technical elements of filmmaking by the likes of Hong Kong kung fu films and American B-movies. In 1980, a US-Japan co-production of Lone Wolf and Cub under the title Shogun Assassin was produced. As a side note of the time, yet another retelling of the 47 Ronin was produced, with Kinji Fukasaku's The Fall of Ako Castle. Keeping to his epic style and not bowing to the exploitational type of movies, Kurosawa would make 2 more masterpieces in both 1980 and 1985, with Kagemusha and RAN, respectively. Kagemusha, or literally translated as Shadow Warrior, meaning a political decoy, starred Tatsuya Nakadai of previous famed movies like Harakiri, in the lead role of a lower-class criminal whom, with an uncanny resemblance to the dying Lord Takeda Shingen, is employed as the decoy. It would win the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and also be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film of the same year. Japanese film magazine Kinema Junpo voted it as number 59 of the greatest Japanese films of all time. 1985's RAN, by Kurosawa, was a Japanese version of another of Shakespeare's plays, King Lear. It would go on to win the Oscar for Best Costume Design, plus in other areas win another 25 and 15 more nominations. As the 80s were coming to a close, so would the dynasty of the Zatoichi series, with Zatoichi, Darkness in his ally. Having been played by Shintaro Katsu all throughout, for his final curtain call on the titular character, he would become an auteur, writing, directing, producing, and starring. This was the second and final time he would direct Zatoichi. The 1990s. Heaven and Earth, released in 1990, directed by Haruki Kadogawa, was the most expensively budgeted Japanese movie of the time with $40 million. It had a huge ticket pre-sale before release, having one of the largest openings in Japan at the time. It would essentially make double its investment over time, though gaining only a small portion upon its grossing in the United States. Yet another 47 Ronin movie was produced in 1994, directed by Kon Ichikawa. It would win several acclaimed awards, including Best Art Direction, Best Editing, Best Sound, Best blah blah blah, all of that. Its nominations would cover all the remaining higher categories. In 1999, Kurosawa's last screenplay, After the Rain, was produced after his death in 1998 and directed by his former assistant director of 28 years, Takashi Koizumi. Later in 2001, After the Rain would win a slew of awards, claiming all the top tiers from the Japanese Academy. 2002, The Twilight Samurai. Nominated for the Best Foreign Film Oscar, 2002 would see the first of 3 of Yoji Yamada's samurai films of the decade with The Twilight Samurai. Starring the versatile Hiroyuki Sanada and set in the mid-19th century just before Japan's Meiji Restoration, it follows a low-ranking samurai whom, like in other tales, is caught up in a series of unfortunate events that make his uneasy life just that more stressful. It's touching and profound during a time when the age of the samurai was truly on its last legs. The Japanese Film Academy would see it winning a huge 12 awards in total, all the top tier, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. 2007, Sukiyaki Western Django. In what almost seems like, in my opinion, a spit in the face to Sergio Leone, director Takashi Miike takes back ownership for Japan this great story that originally stemmed from Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece Yojimbo. I love the fact that Miike has taken Leone's version and flipped it on its head, giving the film more meaning and camaraderie it deserves. The only qualms I have for this film is that it's entirely in English, although with all Japanese actors. Quentin Tarantino has to have been involved creatively, even though never credited. So much of the film seems his style, especially the Temptress stance by Yoshino Kimura, which screams Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn. I love the idea of Tarantino playing a cameo, though he takes his character way over the top, and it's kinda weird. That aside, it truly is a standout of modern samurai western genre. So that's it. These were just some of the hundreds, if not thousands, of samurai movies made in Japan and how they progressed over the years. From the silent era to character-based societal stories, through to epic historical battles, serialized exploitation, and a more genuine appreciation from the genre's origins. These movies will always be held in high regard for me. Their notions of the fate of the class system and its hypocrisy, with rich characters and their heartfelt journeys throughout. I hope this video has inspired you to take a look at some of the other samurai movies that I didn't get to mention, along with the ones that I have. Thanks for watching, and until next time.
Mommy, do you want to watch a video with me before sleepy time?
Oh yeah, I would love to. Which one do you want to watch?
Shogun Assassin.
No, BB. Shogun Assassin is too long.
Mm-mm.